Welcome to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. Join us as we share our favorite RPGs, one-shot games, tabletop games, reviews, and convention panels. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kellie, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, assigned to Ragnarok Story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and RPGpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
Hey guys, Jim here.
And Kellie.
And...
Hey, it's Jess. Glad to join in.
Hey, so we decided we need to share some love with some of our non-Wizards of the Coast 5th edition D&D game books, and I just figured I'd start a chat with everybody and we'd totally geek out about one of the setting books that I am a huge fan of, which is the Star-Shaman Song of Planegea, which I still love as a beautiful Planegea.
I know. Well, yeah, because it's got the elemental planes as well as Pangea for, I thought it was a very clever name.
They definitely put some fun into it.
Yeah. Call out to that. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts with, of course, we will probably all be calling it Planegea for short instead of Star-Shaman Song of Planegea, because Planegea just rolls off the tongue so much better.
Yes.
And one thing I will definitely point out with this book is its art is beautiful. I mean, they have a ton of artists, and I have to give them credit because on page 5, they give each and every artist the picture's title and the page number, which definitely shows some love for the artists there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's it's easy to lose the credits in there at the back of the book and putting it right up there at the front so that people can see, who's working on this thing. It's kind of a nice feature to include.
Yeah,
Some of my favorites are the landscapes. Oh my goodness, they are just beautiful.
Yeah. And of course, there's a lot of rather wild creatures in here. So of course, having good artists sort of help you visualize everything that is new and wild in this world is a really good thing to have.
And I'll start thumbing through the pages there showing off these sexy arts. But the big thing with Planegea, it is a Stone Age setting for D&D. So unlike your classic European era fantasy, it's actually meant to be Stone Age. And one of the things that I love as a touchstone for me is, showing my age, that classic movie Quest for Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We will probably quote that one many times, but it is like a huge touchstone for this kind of setting, with that primitive man and all the species are primitive.
I think more for the landscape as well as and the way they live, not so much the Neanderthal, no language, no.
True.
The Cro-Magnons that they show, probably more closer, I think, to the book, because for me it was much more sword and sorcery, the old that type of thing. It's much more. I get the barbarian kind of feels, but with the more primordial or prehistoric. I like the term that they use, Stonepunk.
Stonepunk. It's a great term.
It is. The book does. And one thing that I thought was very interesting is the black taboos that they have in it, where they actually have a mechanism in the game to prevent it from stealing too much from later ages, like the Bronze Age or there's no wheels.
Yes.
You use
no
a
writing.
wheel, money, writing, and counting above the number 9, and the hounds will come for you. I thought, okay, there's kind of makes me intrigued just to see how a very creative individual could create an artificer character. But set in Planegea, think about it. I just envision all these prehistoric caveman Rube Goldberg machines.
The professor from Gilligan's Island, Stone Age style.
He was a Planegea artificer.
Yeah. They mentioned later in the book that this is in part because otherwise every story devolves into people inventing writing and the wheel, and it's like, okay, how do I keep our players from obsessing about we need to build modern technology right now? And
exactly.
In a practical sense, if you can't, then okay, let's just focus on actually doing story stuff here.
Yep.
Instead of inventing the first McDonald's drive-through.
Survival is more important. You don't want to plant no crops; they won't be there when you get back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Very interesting. They don't have it's hunter gatherer. It's nomadic life. With but then you also have these massive beasts. I mean, we're talking the size, is a 12-story building. You've got dinosaurs. You've got these amazing, sauron-like creatures, and just any possible dire or saber all rolled into one. I mean, and I can perfectly well ride a friggin' pterodactyl or create a hang glider, not like the one in that horrible movie Ator.
Yeah.
You're all thinking it.
Yes.
There's just a rainbow hang glider that's wrapped with vines. No, it's more like.
And then you get the big chameleon dinosaur.
Yeah.
But that's one beautiful thing is they literally take Stone Age and Ice Age and mush them together. So you get everything. You've got your herds of dinosaurs in the plains. You've actually got the closest thing to actual civilization are the giant civilizations at the edge of the map. But the mere fact that everything in the world is in transition. So just because you went east to west doesn't mean you can go back east again, because the map actually will shift, which I thought was a really cool way of, that's how you emphasize hunter-gatherer following the herd, because when you turn around and go back one day, the land has changed.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
I think one point to make is that when we say giant civilization, we don't mean giant in terms of quantity of people, though that can also be true.
Yeah.
But in terms that there are actually giants who can rule over you.
Yep, the actual stone giants, the fire giants, the Ifrit. They are the closest thing to civilization in this primordial world. And the dragons aren't the dragons that we know from regular D&D. They're more of a primordial dragon. Which that is cool.
They're draconic ancestors than they
are.
Yeah. No metallic dragons here. Nope. All chromatic. I mean, there's no metal of any sort in this world, but it's which is another constraint that they have to deal with. And Sometimes they deal with more elegantly than others, but
It's true, but it is good in the equipment section. They totally give you workarounds of, so instead of ring mail, it's actually wood ringlets or ivory ringlets, which
Yeah.
you could totally, come on, we all know you can shave off the serial numbers and make it work just because,
Yeah.
any RPG, that's something that you can do. You just find the good workaround and say, hey, it's not metal. Stop using that dagger there to pry something open because it's going to chip and shatter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they had a little bit more in that section because, making stone plate mail is... there's a reason that didn't happen.
Well,
Unless it's a dwarf. I mean...
Yeah.
And
Unless it's a...
speaking of the dwarfs, I have flipped to the kinships, which is what they call the different species of the world. And I do like how they reboot the ancient D&D races that we know as something new and different. Like with the dwarves, they're still half rock. They're still elemental in being. They're not 100% flesh yet. We've got the elves that are still partially dreamy, and they basically have come straight from the what will be the Fae eventually, but they're translucent and blue, which is really cool. I thought
love
that
how
was.
before.
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, I love how before each of the kinships, the races, there's a little story or a little mention, and some of them are very. I mean, it's like a minor encapsulation of sort of the essence of the kinship. And I thought the dwarf one was very funny. Dwarves are too stony to change. I've known a dwarf to keep a promise made a lifetime ago to his own harm long after everyone he ever made it to was gone. I mean, I think that says it all for
Yeah. It's flavor text that helps get your imagination flowing and saying, okay, what is this race in this context of this world?
Oh heck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of, because I'm a fan of Dark Sun. I love the fact that the halflings are psychotic little killers. Halflings are not your friendly little foes that live in their warrens. No, halflings are murderers because they know the world is out to kill them because they're tiny and there's Tyrannosaurus Rex out there.
Yes. No,
too dark.
that's delightful. I love that depiction of halflings whenever it comes up. It's just little stab friendly bastards.
The Black Sun is just too dark for me. I don't like to play that one. This one, however, while everything, for the most part is trying to kill you in a primeval world, and you have to fight every day for your place in it, but still it has a lot of beauty and magic, like or as it refers to it as, mystic awe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it has more of a beauty to it compared to Black.
Yeah, you have that opportunity to come by a tree that's taller than anything you've ever seen, and that's... I didn't pull that from the book, but that is definitely something that could happen, and that could have both good or terrible implications to it.
Oh yeah. Especially if the tree starts talking to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, considering how there are tree people, the Dreas, which is one of the 4 new races that they have specifically for this world, I found those very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The Dreas, as well as the Half-Boots. That one was really creepy.
That one is
kind
super
of fascinating.
Yeah. The half-ooze really catches my attention as something that could be used in a number of different ways. We'll get into later how wizards work in a world where you can't write things down, but the idea of being, a wizard that doesn't remember how you became a wizard could be very, very interesting.
And of course, the creepy part of the half-ooze is basically the person you were has been eaten by an ooze, and you're what's left.
Yeah, and you may have some recollections of and memories from the previous host, I guess you could say, and your lifespan is halved.
Yeah.
Based off of the host body that you took over. So if it was, I think that was very interesting.
Who knew all that gray jelly in your brain is not gray jelly? Is it bubbles and churns?
Yeah, and it's creepy in how they can elongate their body parts, and because they're ooze,
Yeah.
It's creepy but kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
big credit to
driven
artists
by
here giving that creep factor into the art.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that they eat twice as much as anyone else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're always hungry.
And I will say one thing I really do like, of course, being a World of Warcraft fan, of course I'd like it. Orcs are actually a majestic and noble race in this plane. Because they're seen as the apex survivalists out there with their power and their majesty, and the fact that they even liberated their own city that they now claim as their own, which is great. So the orcs get to be the good guys.
Exactly.
Which is another one playing with the the expectations. And then of course race wise
but then now the gnomes are like they're actually kind of villains.
They are. It's their very nature.
They're literally described as filthy. I'm like, so it's weird, that they switch it up, but it's kind of refreshing.
And then we've got the new race of the Saurians, which is the dinosaur people.
Saurians.
Yep. You've got the pterodactyl type, the Ankylosaurus, the raptor people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the starlings, which is the creepiest of them all.
Yeah, I have to stop thinking that these are bird people.
Oh, yeah, because the starling.
Starling
it's like,
from the sky.
Reading the book like 10 pages later, and it's like, starling. Of course, that's a bird person. It's like, no, star people. Not bird people.
Glowy stars that have fallen to the Pangea.
Yeah, I mean, this is a part of the lore that we haven't discussed yet, is that the stars are... Holy shit, how do you even go over this? Is that the stars are alive, they have discussions, they have wars. The one that wins is the day star for the day. You don't have a fixed moon. The moon sort of just is a thing that gets thrown across the sky and disintegrates, and you might have more than one, or you might have zero. I fucking love this context of the world, where it's just like, yeah, this is fantastical.
Yeah, I mean, it literally is. All of the planes of elements are still interacting with the material realm, so everything is in flux. There's nothing status quo.
Or as it calls it, the swirling sky, because they're in constant motion with no fixed points. It's not like you can navigate to the North Star or anything, because these are active beings.
Because the North Star descended to interact with people and then went back up.
A very Neil Gaiman.
And it does harken back to like the old Greek and Roman stories where the stars are doing things. All of a sudden one constellation goes after another because it wants to be in charge, because it can.
Yeah, but the starlings are the stars made human.
Fallen to earth, and
sometimes you get jealous watching all these mortals having fun, and you want to just come down for a while.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they've got the reimagination of the classes, which I love the touches that they've given them. We've got the aesthetic, which is their version of the monk.
Yeah.
We've got the...
Some of these subclasses are also kind of very interesting to me.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
The path of the far striker barbarian.
Yes, I would love
this.
The one that I thought was very interesting was the druid. What they're called, god leeches.
Yeah.
And so clans hate them. I mean, it's like, which is totally different from what we would normally think of in regular D&D.
It's the total
They're the
twist
noble
on that.
guardians of the nature and that type of thing. But in this setting, you know, they're not liked at all.
The fact that you can be put
I
to
found that
death.
interesting. Hmm?
Yeah, nature does not like you messing around with it in this setting. I mean, rangers are similarly like not the good guys per se. They are.
They're also an affront to, but considering how in this setting nature is literally a living, breathing entity, or many entities, between the gods being, yeah, you know, that tree over there is a god. You see that giant bear? It's a god. You know, that they're very one and surrounded. It's not, you know, they're not some concept or distant, you know, entity to pray to. You could literally go to the god and say, here's my offering, you know.
Yeah.
And that's one of. Oh, go ahead.
It was interesting to think that, like, one of the things that's established as an absolute evil in the setting is the slavery, which is things that the giants participate in, or enforce is probably a better word. And, you know, in that context, you know, when plants are alive, when animals are sentient and all that, you know, having a class that, like, controls plants and animals actually is a fairly evil class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, and like Kelly was talking about the gods, one thing I do like with this setting is, as someone who often plays a cleric when I get to play, is the fact that the shaman, which is this setting's version of the cleric, can change their domains on the regular. Because one god is not the god of the entire area. You actually have to go around and petition a young god to say, "Can you loan me your mojo, please? You know, I'll give you some worshippers. I'll sing your songs. I'll tell your tales. And would you give me your power?" And the fact that the shamans, as they travel, can, you know, totally get the local divine boost from whichever local god or spirit that they're following. And it definitely gives you that old, you know, that old world idea of it's the nature spirits that some are good, some are bad. Like, you know, even if you look at the TV show Avatar, you know, they touched on that with Korra, of the different spirits that, well, they became stronger because people whispered their stories and said their words. So a new regional god can give you another domain.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a really interesting idea. I can imagine that as you're traveling around, you might, you know, I've been worshiping Atta for a long time, but I don't have any coverage here, so I'm switching my worship to Verizon.
Exactly. Oh my God, that is just brilliant. And they have to travel. It's like, this is nomadic lifestyles. There are very few that can just sit and stay, because they have to follow because, you know, they can't plant, they can't farm. There's no agriculture in that capacity. So petitioning the other gods for cover.
Yeah.
And
that is like the best analogy.
And one of the cool things is they mention it, but they leave it up to the players and the GM that there are divine alliances. You know, there are divine alliances where one god can communicate with another god saying, "Hey, yo, my shaman's coming. Give him shit, but, you know, loan him some mojo," you know. So there is that you can totally say that your god told you to seek out. You know, it totally gives you that Star Wars Rebels feel where you go there and you find the Bendu on the planet, who's this powerful creature, but he wants you to figure stuff out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to be careful that, because in this setting, gods eat other gods.
Gods consume other gods. Like, there was this one playthrough of one of the published adventures they have where there's this crocodile god that party can choose to work with, betray, or save their god, which is a little tiny bird, because it's weak and it's a baby god, so it looks like a tiny little bird. And the crocodile god's like, I'll help you guys out to go save your bird god because I want to eat it, bring it back to
Eat
me.
it.
Done. And of course, that would totally go with the old stories, of the crocodile talking, spirit, saying, sure, bring that thing within my teeth's grasp. Yeah, I'll make the waters recede for you.
Yeah.
I'll drain the river so you can cross it. And then when you come back, well, you can ride on my back.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could have some really interesting plots where it's just like your whole tribe is having to navigate from one place to another, and because you're going on a different path than normal, because you can't go in a straight line in this place, and nothing is ever regularly where you think it is, that is like, oh, I am not in my cleric domain anymore. Yeah. I am in the domain of this other god who I don't have any relationship with, and what the fuck do I do now?
Exactly.
Or they could have gone into Nod as well, because in this setting, you can actually walk the plains of dreams and nightmares. Sort of like a shortcut if you have the right guide to get to a place, like in the book uses the example of, you have to prepare for winter and you have to get ahead of the winter. And sometimes that's an option to get to a better situation before winter hits. And time is of the essence. You may risk a trip through Nod, to do that. So
freezing to death in your loinskins, or having to deal with some fae and witches. I mean, let's be honest. I wouldn't want to freeze to death.
Yeah. So
or starve because there's no food or game. And to scavenge.
And then they've got the different backgrounds, which they give a great flavor text for it, Especially since a big part of the game is it does focus on the group, not just as the players, but the fact that you're part of a clan. And
Can I go backwards for a second just to talk about the spell skins?
Yeah, okay. I was going to say there is another class we should talk about.
Yeah, the spell skins are the wizards in this game, which is how you are trying to work around the fact that you need a spell book without having being able to write.
And it's not just right. Anything any type of symbology that can convey meaning over distance. That's how the book described it.
Anything more than cave paintings, basically.
I mean, exactly.
So, like, if you had hide with scrimshaw in it, that's forbidden.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing of having to paint entire walls with your spells per se in a way that does not anger the hounds. And it is a very risky practice as a result. And not every clan is into having one of these people around.
This is true. I mean, they might be immensely powerful, but they bring the hounds.
Some clans hate all magic.
Yeah.
Which is great, because that harkens back to the old barbarian stories.
Yeah, it's we'll get into it later, but it's one of the great factions I find is that the people that want to learn more, maybe to even defeat the hounds, versus the people that are going to go a little bit crazy about the whole thing and maybe I can accumulate enough power first and then beat them, even though they're sure as hell coming after.
Is it even possible to defeat the hounds? Because they'll just keep coming after you until you're dead. I mean, they are the Terminators.
It is the equivalent of the show Supernatural's hellhounds. You can't really see them, and the important thing is they don't have stats. And if it doesn't have stats, you can't kill it.
Yeah, so it's not a practical plan at all. It is just people dreaming of pie in the sky. But it's I find it very, very cool. And I also realized my idea of a spell skin with the half ooze trait accidentally recreates the movie Memento. Um, why is all the stuff written on me? I have to figure it out again.
You start bending your arms and legs together in different ways, and different forms and words appear.
Yeah.
Think
Gotta
of it
kill the guy.
like the Constantine tattoos, where he holds his arms together and it's now a protection circle.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
That would
God,
be
there's
cool.
cool ideas in there.
Yeah.
That's why we like the setting.
Yeah, it's a great setting. And the warlocks, they've got the Pact of the Scar.
Oh, I love that one. It's just the dark forest.
Mm-hmm.
Just
See, one of the ideas I came up with when I rolled up a bunch of characters was a dryad warlock of the dark forest, and it's just like, oh, that's just scary. It crawled out of the woods and blended in with the people, and it's totally going to betray everybody eventually.
yeah. The dark forest is out to kill everything that is not a plant. So
I mean, can you blame it? It's Greenpeace with chloroform.
yeah. There's some really cool stuff in there, between creating, your own like magical injuries of, moss and fungus on people, and giant trees to attack your enemies. And it's like, yeah, I could do that.
The fact that you can reclaim corpses that you kill.
Yes.
Oh, look, there's a tree. There's no body.
Yeah.
Oh, and I can talk telepathically with that tree that grew out of the corpse.
Yeah, that's disturbing as hell.
Yep. But freaking awesome.
That's freaking awesome. Lots of potential there.
Creepy
someone.
And one thing I do like is a lot of the backgrounds actually you can pick any class you want. The background tells you what you do in your tribe.
Yes.
Is because, the tribe is central to the group, because I could totally see a campaign that's literally just the campaign's basis is we start at spring and we end at winter. Does the tribe get to where it needs to go? And that's the campaign's arc, And it's a story of survival of, it's springtime. Everything is growing and everything is good. Summertime, okay, there's competition with rival groups going for the same herds. Fall, oh shit, things are getting bad. And then winter, do we get to the special valley in time,
Yeah.
Oh my god, did I just quote that dinosaur movie from back when we were all kids? Is there a tree star in Planegea? There's got to be.
Yeah.
And one thing it does push to, which I really love in D&D and you don't see a lot of, is the crafting. They actually really do
everything
push,
has to be,
since you make things that characters can craft stuff, because it's not like you can take your purse with 15 gold and go buy a thing. No, it actually, different backgrounds are actually specifically geared and set up to craft things for the group.
Mm-hmm.
Or gather food for the group, which, literally hunter-gatherer are two backgrounds, which I think are funny because they do work really well together. Especially if you don't want a ranger, but you want to play like a ranger. Totally go with the hunter.
Yeah. And there's also the whole aspect of you're going to be fighting fantastical giant things. And for once, there's kind of a system here for let's build something out of that corpse.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That is required. That is not, your players being a freak.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I love, is it actually has the recipe idea of breaking this down into that. Here's the resource you get from the kill. So it's not just going to make the druid angry that you're killing things, because you actually have to survive.
Yes.
Everything can be used from a kill, or should be used for the kill.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's like one of those classic things that I've had with players where it's like they're like, oh, it's a cockatrice head. I should keep that and we'll have some use for it later. And as a DM, you're like, I have no idea in general idea. And here it's like, that is the system. If you don't do that, you're stupid. Excuse my language. You're supposed to be taking the cockatrice's head, because if you don't, your tribe is going to be like, what are you thinking?
You're starving. You're going to...
Yeah. Give that to the shaman. He'll, like, MacGuffin it into something, and,
He'll totally make it into a magic mask aspect of the cockatrice.
Mm-hmm. And there's still some room for the DM to, like, make stuff up here, but it's a little bit more, like, built into the box.
Mm-hmm. And they totally give you some leverage too. I mean, like when it comes to crafting, they hear our options, because, like, you guys have heard it in my games where I'm like, okay, you're using this proficiency. What stat are you using with? Are you using your dexterity? Are you using your wisdom? And they even listed in the crafting section that intelligent means that you're using, you understand the nature of the materials. That's how it's helping you. Wisdom, well, you know that you can evaluate the best parts to use for this. Strength, well, you're twisting and rending and you're forcing it to work. Or dexterity, you're just, crafting the components with a beautiful finished product. So that way players don't feel like, oh, well, I'm only good with dex. I can't make a stone weapon. Well, actually, yes, you can. You can nap that stone weapon and make yourself one.
Yeah. They've applied that to a lot of different areas, and I've appreciated that. It's not just wisdom that gets you from place to place. Sometimes it's intelligence.
Exactly.
Sometimes, dexterity. Whatever you're probably not going to use your constitution to get from place to place, but...
True.
But, it gives you some options there for, like, this is how your players might use a different stat, because, you don't want only your wisdom-based character to be doing a lot of stuff.
And then the book leads us into the spell section, which I thought was cool, that each, what used to be called in D&D a school, but is actually called Magical Origins, each school of magic is related to a certain kinship that created it, which I thought was cool. Like, abjuration is the dwarves, conjuration is the genies, divination was from the giants, enchantment is elves. Evocation is the dragons, because of course they're primordial creatures of the elements. The gnomes with illusions. I could totally see this band of gnomes living in their totally camouflaged out illusion home that in the home looks nothing like the forest, but outside is totally camouflaged. It's forest gnomes at their best. And the Saurians with their necromancy, and the orcs with transmutation.
Yeah, we didn't mention this when we were talking about the Saurians, but the Saurians are very obsessed with their ancestors. True. So necromancy fits very well with them. They have a cantrip which is just, talk with my friendly ancestors. It's like, okay.
Could totally see them doing the slee stack thing of having the skulls of their ancestors to summon them.
Yeah. I confess I read that cantrip before I read the Saurian entry, so I was like, why is there a cantrip just for finding friendly undead?
Because
usually not a thing in campaigns.
Sometimes you need it. I mean, that is the one nice thing, is that Planegea does kind of break the tropes that 5th edition tried to turn people away from. Like in Classic 5th, there's no evil alignment players. Certain magic's kind of frowned on. We had to put it in the book so the bad guys can use it, but we don't want players to really use it. Here, it's just like, hey, that's part of your culture. Ancestor worship is a thing.
Yeah, if you could actually talk to your ancestors when you do ancestor worship, why not?
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever played the Barbarian Path of the Spirits, I think it is. No, it's Path of the Ancestors, where when you fight, you summon your dead tribesmen up to serve with you. It's a ridiculous path for the barbarians.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we get to part 2 of the book, for the Game Master. And
I'll say one thing about the spells. They have one spell that I love, which is buries people in the dirt. I love that. It's like, if I'm going to steal one thing there from this book, I'm going to steal that for any character I can. Mm-hmm. Just, I have buried you in the earth, and you have to deal with that now.
Yeah. You're now buried up to your neck. What are you going to do?
Yep.
Though I do love for the cleric, they've got the cantrip of form weapon,
Yeah.
which you can always use that cantrip.
Yes. Just keep throwing them at people.
Yep. Druid and clerics are saying, here's a weapon, here's a weapon, here's a weapon, here's a weapon. By the end of the fight, it's going to fall apart, but for now, you've got a weapon. Congratulations, you're an armed society.
Yeah.
And of course, we did kind of gloss over it, but the bard is the chanter. The storyteller, more like a skald than a bard. Because, of course, magic being, not good, but if I'm telling you stories, that's totally different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very much appreciate them. They have the spell magic skis, which I will always laugh at.
The magic skis, yep. I just turned to that page, too.
Setting, but getting to hand out magical snowboards to your entire party, awesome.
Yep. And one thing I will totally give them on the spells that are setting specific, if you look at the components, they totally made sure that any Stone Age society could get a hold of the things. Because as opposed to like in the player's handbook, there's some components that are a pain in the ass to get, which is why everybody says I have a component pouch. But, like, oh look, lava leap, I have some pumice, some stone. Or if you're casting magic skis, like you said, pine needles and water. That's all I need. Pine needles and some water. Flick, and now you can snowboard.
Yeah. You're turning your friends' stones into bones so they can be tough as hell and beat the crap out of someone.
Yep.
You need a stone and a bone. It's a good system.
It's a great system, and you can tell they enjoyed writing this. You could so tell just reading the bits and pieces from the beginning of each career and each species. You know that they put lots of work into this before the Kickstarter that originally kicked this off happened. And one thing like in the DM section says there's big themes that they want in this game. And one is like dynamic combat. They don't just want I walk up and swing my sword. No.
Yeah.
Get dynamic with that stuff. Use countdown dice that if you don't do something by now, something bad is going to happen or it's going to get worse. Make sure that the fights are not just static standing in one place. People are moving and shifting, things are happening. Bring that pulp action into it.
Yes.
Because so many things have lair actions, which is a big one I love. Because, of course, you're going to be attacking a creature in its territory,
Mm-hmm. And when things have sort of the supernatural essence to them by default, you could say, it makes sense for things to have lair actions. The crocodile just happens to be unusually large and attack you with the vines around it. That's just a thing that happens.
Mm-hmm. It knows right where to churn its tail to cause the current to pull you in the water. You thought you were on solid ground. It's actually just mud and roots. So when he whips his tail, it sucks you under.
Yeah.
And unlike 5th edition, I do like how they pump up the fear, dread, and terror. So many things have the ability to actually scare the crap out of you. Like oozes that will find you when you're sleeping, crawl in your ear and eat you. And then a thing will get up in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the stories that was terrifying. The introduction to the half ooze.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it is very creepy.
And who knew you just laid on some dry ground where an ooze got swept away in Mudstorm a month ago and is slowly creeping its way up through the ground. And its little pseudopod poked around and felt a warm breath on it and it crawled towards the sleeping person. That's some horror movie shit right there.
Yeah.
Especially when you find the caves full of ooze. That's just nasty.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're gonna give me nightmares.
and I will say the artwork, like Kelly was saying earlier, the landscape shots definitely do lead to the inspiring awe of this primordial natural place. It's like watching those clips of Naked and Afraid when they show the beautiful vistas of places that we will never get to see, and it's like, whoa, that's some shit. Look at that waterfall.
Yeah.
Well, and they describe the Planegea as this vast expanse of, vast landscape that is immeasurable. So when you see some of these images in the book, it helps to, inspire that type of,
yeah. I mean, as a GM,
imagery
you could flip and show to the players, right there at the game table. You just say, "This is what you see." My words cannot encapsulate what you're looking at in this image here.
Yeah.
And then the book gets us to one of the other parts I love, because I love skills. We all know in 5th edition they handicapped a lot of skills that we were used to back in the 3.5 and 4 days. But wilderness tools. They basically pointed out to you as a player group in this world, you are going to be traveling, camping, surviving, and traveling again. So there's no sitting down in one city with a tavern and that's our headquarters. You're constantly on the move, which from an RPG point of view, it's great because there's your motivation for your player group to go and discover and explore.
Yeah.
But they actually give you tools in regards to your skills of, hey guys, old skills, new uses, and it totally gives you breakdowns of like animal handling. You can use that to watch animal behavior using flight, migration, or grazing patterns to navigate. So somebody who doesn't have survival could actually use animal handling to follow the herd. Which, in Planegea, the herd's probably better than actually trying to navigate.
Yeah.
Well, the book even mentions following the herd is one of the main triggers also for winter. When they start seeing them move south, we need to start thinking of winter, because if it starts getting cold, it's already too late.
Yep. I mean, one I love is using your insight skill, which is normally used to read someone's intentions, to actually reading the land's mood, detecting a will to mislead through changed locations. So you can actually suss the land itself with its opinion.
You can also persuade the land to implore to not be an asshole, basically. Allow safe passage, easy passage, please. That would be wonderful.
We're gonna just leave a little kern of rocks here to make you happy with us, to let us pass in peace.
Yep. Whew. Makes me think about what deception would be in that case. You don't want to flop that roll. That will
of course,
that would rock and roll. Yeah.
Something looking at one of the pictures just made me think of. You want to use deception to make sure the T-Rex doesn't leave a giant walnut in front of your camp. I mean, when I first got this book, when it came out on the Kickstarter, I totally wrote this idea of, okay, the group's motivation is there's an angry solo T-Rex stalking the group.
Yeah.
And this Thunder Lizard, because of course in the game you wouldn't call it a T-Rex, it would be the Thunder King, the Thunder Lizard. And it's basically the motivation for your tribe to keep moving, because if you move faster than the herd, well, it's eating the herd instead.
Yeah.
And of course, for you GMs out there that don't think you have good ideas for maps, they actually codified so well the dice drop, which I've done on my tiny 2x4 whiteboard way back in the day, where you just grab a handful of dice and you drop them, and you start circling on this map of what the numbers come up with. So if like your D10 came up with a 1 or 2, dinosaurs. Don't know the details, but dinosaurs right there. 3 or 4, giant plants. 5 or 6, gnomes. There's gnomes here. It's this, you can use just randomness of of the randomest sort to create things. And then basically on the map, you take a picture with your cell phone and you can draw some details between it and say, hey, here's the path between the giant plants and the gnomes. Because you got to say gnomes like that. Gnomes.
Yeah. But it also adds things like, you can have things like environmental obstacles, which are so important. Having your dynamic battles of like, they use the example early on of like, you're doing it on a cliffside that crumbles over time, and that's exciting. But it's like you just need to have those settings.
Yeah.
That it's not fighting on a grid of squares. You're fighting in a place.
Mm-hmm. And then it gives you a great little list of like, lots of tables. Like, hey, social encounter. So you need one in a pinch, roll a d6. Here's a social encounter you can pop up with. You need wandering animals? Here you go.
Yep. Yep. Wandering predators.
As I stop to read and go, oh yeah, markers. You find banners and other items there. It's like, so what happened to the last people that were here? I don't know.
Broken bones, blood smears, scratches, and other signs.
Just enough to get your players on edge,
Yeah.
As a GM, you could totally be sitting there as your players are having a sidebar and talking, and you roll your dice and you go, huh, broken bones and blood smears. And you just wait for the room to get quiet. And then the book totally gives you tools of, it's still D&D. So you could of course take any D&D adventure and reskin it in Stonepunk. But they give you guys the idea that you don't need a tavern like in D&D. You have the clan fire, which is at the middle of your camp. You have the big fire where everyone is welcome. Fights are put on hold for this. So even if you have a rival in your tribe that you're with, at the clan fire, you knock that crap off. Everyone gathers to share the fire. It's a big centerpiece of your community. It's not just the tavern. It's also the job board where you can discuss jobs, because you could totally go out there as a GM and instead of the old man in the tavern next to the fire that will give out the job to the adventurers, it's the old blind man staring off into the fire that will tell a story to the hunters and gatherers, saying, they spoke of a night once before like this, when a star fell, that there could be star metal. If you go in the morning this way, maybe find something. And of course, hilarity ensues then. And the fact that you can use caves instead of castles and dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there are no temples. There's just things erected out in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah. They have guidelines on making your own clans.
That one I loved, because that way, you could have 3 or 4 gaming groups in the same world, all in different tribes that maybe, they have the clan moots, and then they separate and split up like clan societies would.
Yeah.
The fact that every, clan usually will have a primary god and then a network of gods, or those that scorn the gods.
Yes. It also provides the opportunity that, hey, maybe you do need to go make an alliance with the people next door as you're moving downstream towards warmer weather. And it's like, who have we run into? Could it be a clan of like, halflings, just a small one, who happen to be probably going to stab us?
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be some noble half-orcs.
You wake up and they're chewing on your toes.
Yeah. And it gives you all sorts of things to roll at or read through and decide, hey, this makes sense to me. And I always appreciate those sorts of tables because, sometimes you just need ideas for what the hell you're trying to build.
Yeah, and this way you could pop out with a few quick dice rolls. In 30 minutes, you could knock out a small clan for the group, and then as a GM, you look across the table saying, hey, here is your small tribe. It's about 1d6 plus 10 people. Includes a chieftain and a shaman and it has 1d3 minus 1 elders and 1 notable character. And then you can ask questions on them of like, okay, so who is the chieftain? I mean, is one of you guys the chieftain? That could totally be a thing. I mean, a lot of the backgrounds will totally put you up as like the next in line for a position in those backgrounds, which that's important too. Because then you could have your initiating thing of, okay, well, the group goes off to hunt a stegosaurus. A rival group comes and attacks and kills a couple people. And how are you going to deal with that? You know, who's going to cowboy up and take that position?
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there for just the interaction with your own NPCs in that little world.
Mm-hmm. Which, as a GM, that's always fun when you have NPCs in the group that you know the group will be coming back to assist, because that's the whole thing. Is it's not just a team of 5 against the world. You need your clan to come back to.
Mm-hmm. I think another interesting aspect of these clans is that apparently important to them is what are your nearby materials.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're just goddamn perilous.
Yep. Sometimes too much of a good thing is not good.
Yes. You have access to rare monster parts. Guess what's attached to those?
It comes with
Rare
monsters.
Yep. If for some reason you are wandering around without a tribe right now, you could become very popular very quickly.
And that's one too that, you know, when if the group all pick different kinships, that's not a problem. You just have to decide, okay, what is the core of this clan? You know, are they humans? Are they elves? Are they human and elves? You know, because remember, you can totally eventually have the half elves eventually.
Yeah. You'll look a little freaky being half transparent, but sorry, that's me being judgmental.
It's only from the shoulders up can you see through me.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, there are magic structures that your group can have, you know, a magical totem, a magical circle, a spell wall, you know, there are things that your tribe will keep near and dear to itself.
Yeah. I mean, I think something we haven't touched on at all at this moment is that the tribe has things like being able to cast magic collectively, being collectively create magical items.
Yeah, they can totally do the ritual aspect of, you know, instead of going to church and praying for the cleric, y'all get together and say, let us pray for this. And the nice thing too is, you know, with the clan fire, you can list out, like, you know, what during the morning, during the clan, you know, fire timing, you show up, you can go to talk, you can get tasks, you can depart, you can craft. So that way the group knows this is why this is important to the team. Because there's certain stuff that maybe you want to go to the clan fire in the afternoon and have someone craft something for you while you go off to adventure, which is nice. You know, you could totally get the classic RPG fetch quest. Go get me 20 rats and I will make you a rat coat because I need 20 rats to actually skin to make your coat. This is why I need these things. There's important reasons here.
Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons here to create like your own little NPC network of like, you know, here's, you know, Greg the fisherman. You know, he goes out every day. He fishes.
Yeah.
If you want him to catch, you want him to go fishing for something specific because you need it for a ritual, you know, just let him know.
Yep.
I'm sure there's more interesting versions of that. The hunters that I need this particular horn.
Oh heck yeah.
You have to gather herbs. It's like there's like a network of like it's not stores. You're trying to basically get favors from people that are already doing this shit.
And it's barter system at its best, you know. Which that is one thing I do like. They made a currency equivalent in salt. You know, 1 salt equals what would normally be a gold coin in case you need to quantify a good trade. So that way you're not each time the trade is like, how did this thing become way more valuable than it is now? It's the equivalent of how much salt.
Yeah.
Which
I like how
more or less valuable. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I like how the game also goes into, well, I mean, examples of quantifying the since there's no currency, but for different types of things on it, it gives you a correlation between what a medieval society would have, which would be the prototypical D&D setting, to what their equivalent would be in a stone age version.
Mm-hmm.
And having that in the book, I think, helps everybody to relate more to that type of environment than what you would typically see. So it translates it.
Exactly. And like for services, you know, you would know what you need to trade to get someone to do this for you.
Yes. So it's interesting that apparently portions of salt can lose their value if you have too much salt in the area, but I imagine the same thing is true of gold in a world, but
that whole
try
supply
not
and
to
demand.
buy. Yeah. I think that's them trying to keep some realism that, you know, if you're sitting on top of a giant pile of salt as a clan, then maybe you can't trade salt for things.
Although it is an interesting point of fact is that the Roman legions, part of their salary was salt.
Mm-hmm.
It was given to them in salt. Just salt was so very important because, you know, it tastes good.
Hey, it improves the flavor
and
of
it
food.
Can be used
it's a preservative.
And preservation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
very important.
Anywhere you go, it's going to have perceived value. I mean, coins, maybe not so much the further north you go, but the salts, the further from the ocean you get to, and salt mines, the more valuable that stuff gets.
Yeah. Going back to the point of, you know, the equivalence, it is interesting they have a couple suggestions if you feel like, you know, the armor and the weapons should actually be a little bit less powerful because of the Stone Age level technology. I wish they'd explore that a little bit more, just because, hey, you know, a stone broadaxe is a little bit of an odd idea in some ways. Stone, plate mail, all that. But there is, I mean, the fact of the matter is there's not a lot of necessarily precedent of, like, how do you make thick armor if you don't have metal? We don't live in a world where that history exists.
Yeah, I remember back in the like early Dark Sun age, they totally adjusted all the weapons down one die because of the whole there is no metal, you know.
Yeah, that's one of the suggested things here, and it's like they definitely mention that this will make the campaign significantly harder.
All of a sudden,
also, you know, reducing all the ACs is going to make you get stabbed quite a bit. It's just
everyone is squishier, but take longer to kill.
Yeah.
And then I know the rangers out there in any D&D setting will appreciate the taming track. How to tame animals to be your friends. It's a great set of rules that you can totally steal for any D&D setting. Because, you know, a lot of times your players will say, I want to train that thing. And it's like, so here's how difficult it's going to be. First you have to subdue it, then you have to trap it, then you've got to train it, you know. Here's what you have to roll against. Good luck.
Yeah.
But I want that T-Rex as my pet. And of course, they've got the creepy adventure environments to add extra creepiness to it.
Yeah.
I love the cave drawing of the beholder. It's the circle with the swirly arms.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just need to have certain apex domains in the area, so that way when you get there, the groups immediately get the idea of what's going on. Like, oh, you just found some dwarven ruins. Don't know why they're empty. Don't know why they're there, but we're going to find out what's going on. And of course, since the world is constantly moving, the tables here really do help the GM, because that way you can totally say, hey guys, you just walked into a roving forest. So when characters enter a roving forest, assume the trees are conscious of their presence. You know, I don't like it when the trees know I'm here.
Yes. I like the idea of the divided forest where the different trees have different feelings about the adventurers. So, you could have one that's dropping like fruit gently on you, and the next one is very viciously dropping fruit on you.
The trees have disagreed on their opinions, so the pomegranates are pummeling you, while the avocados are embracing you.
Yeah.
I just have visions of Wizard of Oz and the trees just throwing their own apples.
I mean, is that
Yes.
actually child abuse? You're throwing your fruits. It is a drive-by fruiting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, to make a GM's life so much easier, if your group decides to take that passage into Nod, there's an easy, hey, here's a random encounter of something weird that the group is running into. Because you're going in Nod, you're going to see some weird stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody, don't drink the wine berries.
I would have liked a little bit more detail in that section, just given that it's a whole new reality, but I understand. There's only so much room for anything in this book.
Yep. And thankfully you could steal so much from any of the Fey Realms books, too.
Oh, yes, yes. That's actually a very nice thing about this book, is that it's very easy to slot in little bits from here and there, despite being a very different setting.
And the fact that they managed to sneak in vampires.
Yeah. Run Vampire the Masquerade in a Stone Age setting, why not?
Because now you have no silver weapons. What are you going to do?
We've replaced silver with shiny wood.
There you go.
That's the exact change in this game. Yeah, how do you kill werewolves in this setting?
Oh, that would suck. I mean,
they do mention
you'd have to use magic weapons.
I mean,
thankfully your shaman has the ability to make a magic weapon as a cantrip.
Yeah. Very true. Holy shit.
And of course, they do have some pretty maps in there, and I love that the distance at the bottom is a suggestion. If you've not zoomed in on the maps, the distance, it's more of a guideline, really.
It's more of a guideline. Yes.
It says scale, and it's got 2 lines with a line connecting them, but there's no scale in the map. Because, of course, everything is constantly shifting.
Yeah.
But it gives...
And it's helpful to have some idea of where things are in relation to each other. So you don't just wander from the Earth Empire to the Air Empire in one step or two.
Yep. But everything else is flowy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am definitely a big fan of the setting. I mean, the artwork, of course, it is great if you can get to the Great Valley. Oh my god. That's the name in that old cartoon, isn't it? With the dinosaurs and the tree stars.
No, that's...
Land Before Time?
Yeah, the Land Before Time. What was the valley called that they go to every year?
Oh, I saw that movie maybe once.
I had sisters who had to watch it every 3 days. But I think it was the Great Valley.
That's right.
You're Googling, aren't you?
I am. It is, in fact, the Great Valley.
And of course, it gives you a nice breakdown of, hey, here's what the storm giants, the fact that they're fighting krakens, in the oceans. They're a little busy fighting primordial tentacle things. You've got the fire giants, the different factions. They give you a great breakdown in the major players out there, so that way it's easier for your GM to keep track of them.
Yeah. Keep an idea, get some ideas of where you may want people to go or not go.
Yeah, or not go might be a good one. And I will totally give them props on the faction list. It lists the page telling you about the faction, so you don't have to go back to the index and flip back and flip forward. And they give a really good summary in the faction page of here are the lead NPCs. Here's their shared philosophy among all of their people.
Yeah.
And
similar things with the threats of like, this is why this is a threat. They do a really, really good job of some of the tables in here.
the page layout is amazing.
Yeah.
And then of course they give you the warning of the what winter is like. Because of course winter is the enemy of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you totally decide to say, hey, Bear Clan, can we hang out with you guys? I read your stats. You're pretty cool.
Yeah, I like Bear Clan.
I mean, they are one of the cool ones.
I'm kind of fond of the Free Citadel. That seems like a place that would be cool in winter.
For player characters, that's like the place you want to get to eventually, I think. Because that's like the one free city that you could actually, hey, this is civilization.
Yeah. Yeah, you have stolen a city from the giants.
Thank you, orcs.
You can actually run a whole campaign there, like of intrigue and all of that jazz. It could be very interesting. I laugh at the idea of just like, wow, you are trying to not get kicked out into that city if you can get in there.
If at all possible.
I mean, it's a town full of orc revolutionaries who created a birthplace of hope.
Yeah.
And of course, the fact that it still has lots of spoils left in it, the Citadel.
Yep, still vaults to crack into because it's not safe to always crack into a giant's vault.
Sometimes you have to. Other times you find out it was just a giant's privy and it's full of slimes.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great use for slimes. It's just dissolving all your poop. Up until they climb up and need to eat you from the inside. But that's a different problem.
While you sleep.
Poke, poke, poke.
Yeah.
And of course, they give you some beautiful maps for the free city.
Yes.
And of course, they
always
tell you
things like
the free city is great, but we need food, so go out and bring us food. Because what happens when you have a free city?
Yeah, it's they pretty accurately depict it as a giant city in the mountain, and it's like, yeah, that's not a great place for farming or hunting or anything. Yep, go out there and feed us.
I mean,
we don't have a slave class to do that for us anymore.
I mean, anyone that uses pterodactyls as your birds of prey, I mean,
yeah.
I've yet to come across that picture, but I remember it's in here where there's those frost giants, and he's got a pterodactyl as his falcon.
Yeah, that could. Whew, that's a terrifying idea. Oh yeah, I just found that. Page 242. Some lovely humans in cages too.
And then it shows the absolute terrifyingness of the dragons, the brood.
Yeah.
Bunch of primordial dragons who are just like, let's go screw with people because we're dragons.
Yep.
And of course, you've got the Cthulhu stuff. Gotta always remember the Cthulhu stuff.
Yep.
Oh, the crawling waffles.
I hate those. Sorry. They terrify me.
I mean,
they look like greys and they take on your shape. It's
they're the epitome of the terror of the doppelgangers, you know.
Yeah.
And one thing nice is when they give you the different places, like the Winter Gods section. I love how they took demons and basically make them minions of the Winter Gods. And they have tables for every bracket of play. So your 1st to 4 level, your 5th to 10th, 11th to 16th, and 17 on up. So that way, any level of adventure can come here and find something. I mean, granted, you're probably going to say, roll me an insight check to think if it's a fair fight, you know, and tell them you think you will die if you engage this creature. Because more player characters need to con their targets before starting fights. I just got to say that.
Yeah.
but it gives great adventure seeds.
Yes. A lot of ideas in there. Like a little bit too much to cover.
Oh, you could have 5 or 6 different campaigns in this setting, and no two touch each other. You know,
Yes.
you could totally go for a campaign where your clan embraces the cold. You know, your spirit god actually embraces the cold for you guys. So maybe you're wanting to fight the frost giants. You know, because we all know they're douchebags. The picture shows they've got mammoth tusk cages with people in them. That immediately puts you on the bad guy side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the super creepy one, the Gift of Thirst, the vampires. And it does give a great storyline of how vampires were created, and the fact that a small elite crew controls all these vampires and makes sure that they do not make more vampires.
I do like how the 12 vampires are known as the 3 and 9.
Yep.
Small detail to include. They have found a workaround for the hounds.
Yep. And it's their dirty little secret.
Yeah.
But you never know.
It's addition.
Maybe
Anyways.
somebody wants to find out their secret and they'll have to pay a price.
Yeah.
But anyone who can tie up an Efreet and keep it as a prisoner, come on.
Yep. Occurs to me that at some point you're going to be a many-level adventurer in this game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. After you reach past 9, it's that's it.
Yep.
Many levels.
Yep. It's just many.
Yeah.
Many levels.
Yeah.
It's 9 is the most powerful number, right?
Yeah. No many-level spells here. Just 9.
Oh, I just got to the creepy grays. They are super creepy.
Yeah. I got a little ahead. I hate those people. Sorry.
You got a little ahead, and they got big heads.
Yeah, they got big heads.
And of course,
I mean, credit due to the artist. If you have like a single image and I instantly hate that race and fear them, good job. I'm usually not that judgmental of anything, and that is, whew.
They're super creepy.
Yeah.
And then when you see one's head on a freaking sloth.
Yeah. A giant sloth, it's like, there is something going on there that I do not want to know about. I don't want to interact with.
Whatever your plan is, good day to you, sir. Good day.
Yeah.
I said good day.
This is the rejection of the call to adventure. No, thank you.
And then, of course, we get the City of the Dead.
Yes.
But it is nice that the undeath is totally got that Wamsamdi feel from WoW.
Well,
Yeah.
the law of death is not just from
No.
WoW.
Nope. But that's the latest interpretation of them I've seen. I was gonna say you could totally bring the best one, which is Coco.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you think of that movie, you get teary eyed.
No, it's a good movie.
If you don't cry in the movie Coco, you have no soul. My God, I'm only up to page 260. There's so much more in this book.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, there's so much adventure fuel in this one. I mean, like I said, my first playthrough, I would totally say, is just do a getting your tribe from point A to point B. But then they give entire campaigns at the end there. You know,
Yeah.
an escalating threat. A warlord arises, you know, and then you have to deal with it by tiers, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I like that it you start off with a very, I would say, normal prehistoric society, and then you get into the really fantastical, and it's like, I think that's a really great way to build a world in a way, just so you can your players often kind of start with that kind of scaling in mind in some way.
Exactly.
You know, they start by saving kittens. They want to fight Cthulhu by the end. Cthulhu is around the corner here.
He is there with a bunch of storm giants fighting his tentacles.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they do a great job of, magic items. Totally giving it that hardcore tribal feel. They add in, giving you all the rules you need to hack 5th edition to make it fit. And then you've got the masks.
Yes. Yeah, for all I was a little bit critical about them not having enough information about the armor, they have so much stuff in here about, like, that you build this armor out of that thing and you get this effect. It's like, yes!
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
And then they've got plenty of good ones, like, I don't know about you, but the apertures of mammoth. You're basically building a mechanical mammoth out of wooden bones.
Yes. That's how you can do the artificers. You have the apparatus of the hawk and the
Yep.
mammoth. Just very big mechanical things that have no wheels in them somehow.
It's got 10 levers, and you pull them because you can only count to 9.
Yeah. Has many levers in it.
As they just flash their fingers once. This many.
Yep. There's a lot of great little things in here, from like small things that like will blind you to like, whew. And like I said, just armor built out of the remains of your enemies that has various effects. A gnomish crossbow, that could be a light crossbow, a hand crossbow, or a heavy crossbow, depending on how you set it up.
And then it gets to my favorite part of the book, gods and monsters. Because have you guys looked at the monster templates? I love that they created that for this game. Granted, it's going to make any monster more deadly because it makes them tougher, stronger, cooler. But just adding a D20 of a different abilities to a monster with one quick paragraph. It's not like a whole template to add. It's a beautiful, simple template.
Yes, this is a part that I've been waiting to get to because I am so fond of this idea.
This is beautiful. In any D&D setting, you could totally steal this. Like,
yes,
climbing. Oh, look, this creature now has climbing for some reason. Well, because it's in a forest. Primordial, a berserker, an elemental, which of course in this setting, elemental anything totally makes sense because it's got that primordial energy corrupting it like a sorcerer would. So it has access to these different things.
Yeah. It can be as simple as having an extra fin on it. It can be as complex as having multiple heads, which is terrifying.
Or fungal. That's the worst one. That's totally Last of Us, the video game right there. You've got a headless body with mushrooms growing out of it.
Oh, dear.
I mean, how do you make your bullet more dangerous? Give it horns, so it can dig through the earth and it can charge.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they have a spiny... I love the little pictures they made for this, too. They have the spiny rust eater. I'd kind of like to know what the slimy rust eater would be, just slipping around and eating everything.
The worst part is, rust monsters in this setting must be freaking starving.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that until you mentioned it. Yeah, they are going to eat that iron right out of your blood.
They're probably evolved later from a different creature, so they probably just don't have them yet.
Though I do love the sailed basilisk picture. It does make the basilisk look cool, having that big sail fin.
Mm-hmm. The tentacle Zorn is a horror
that's some Cthulhu shit right there.
Yep.
It's an abomination from the far realm, and it's got tentacles.
Yep. I have the giant gaping maw and the tentacles to pull you into it. That's going to be fun.
The undead merman.
But of course.
And I'm sorry, the winged Abeloth is ridiculous. That's a game ender right there. A psychic Abeloth that can dominate minds, and now it can fly too, and it can swim. Nope.
Yeah.
Can you say OP?
Put that Cthulhu shit back in the ocean, please, and keep it deep.
There's a big nope.
Nope. You see the
Yep, they did not hold back on this section of multi-headed cockatrices and
and
and elemental purple worms and massive gricks and just everything in here is a nightmare.
Yeah, and they warned that brings the fear and the horror and the upping and the edge. I mean, and we haven't gotten to the most terrifying thing yet in the monster section. And you probably know the one I'm thinking of. You know, they have a great way of just introducing one creature that makes your players go, nope. As you look at this beautiful, pristine mountain lake, it looks like Lake Arrowhead, and then a winged freaking abeloth flies out like a giant flying catfish and splashes. Nope. I don't care how much fish is in that water, it ain't worth it.
Yeah. No, it's a great idea of just like how to like mix up a monster just a little bit to make it like that much more horrifying.
And the nice thing too is a GM, if you don't tell them, oh, it's a blah blah blah, instead you just describe it of what it looks like and what its additional adaptations are, and your players will just be like, what? I don't get this, huh? You know.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like a giant centipede, but it's smoking, but it's also got spikes all over it. I don't know what it is, but we gotta kill it.
Yep.
And then, the book slides into the divine magic and the air quote gods. And it gives a great listing of, it's not just, D&D gods. These are beasts, plants, places, elements. It could be your god is a freaking waterfall. And it's just the waterfall sounds change when you pray to it or when you give it reverence, and it gives you healing powers because of its water, which is, and then, oh, lo and behold, the waterfall has a cave underneath it for the clerics. I mean, shamans.
Yeah, they do a really smart thing here too, where they have all the guides for how you build it, and then they have the exact examples of their own, gods that are established in the worlds. And it's just like, yeah, okay, this makes more sense. You don't have to flip back and forth between, different books or different sections of the book. It's like, no, okay, so the divine strata means this, and he has this strata. Okay, yeah, I get this.
Yeah, and it basically walks you through here's the 3 or 4 things you should smash together. And that's how you describe the god,
Yeah. No, I always appreciate when they have examples in the books, because that is one of the things that I have had the most trouble with sometimes. One of my favorite stories is trying to get the correct CR for a horse and having that come out completely wrong, because horses should have a different CR than they do. If you use the calculating tables that the Dungeon Master's Guide gives you, I think it should be either a CR1 or a CR1 quarter. I think 1. Anyways, not important.
And then
but having if you're going to build something, you want to be able to know that you're doing it right.
Yeah, and you want examples of here's what it looks like, because I just might reskin that instead of rolling dice and making it myself.
Yes, very much so.
And then we've got the bestiary, which has got lots of, primordial savage creatures. The Great Wing, that's ridiculous. Again, thinking using one of those as a bird of prey. Only it's got an intel of 2, leathery bird brain.
Yep.
But the fact that they give so many, and we of course in D&D already have a lot of dinosaur stats in the monster manual, but then they give so much more.
Yeah, and it's not just dinosaurs. They have the mammals, they have the supernatural. There's a lot of stuff in here.
And then they give the oh my god powerful ones. Thunderflame.
Yeah.
And then we have dire sloth, because who needs a giant sloth when you can have a dire sloth?
Yeah.
My clan is just going to follow this sloth and hide underneath it in case anything happens, because we know it's smart-ish and it's nice. And then it gives the ghost monkey. the giant armadillo, the glunch.
Yeah.
Because I want to ride a praying mantis too, right?
Yeah. The horse ape. That's just a combination of words I don't want to see.
Yeah. And then we've got the newcomer creepy aliens.
Yep.
The Kelodoshronians, something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we got to get some creepy space-like stuff in there somewhere, right?
Yeah. Nothing like having that supernatural aspect or UFO feeling aspect in the middle of there.
The laughing boar. There's nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Again, artists have done a fantastic job here.
Yep.
I mean, both with the little cave painting aspects, which are like nice little accents, and yeah, with the boar, things like the boar, which are nightmare fuel.
You could have a cool Zug, or basically ride a giant hermit crab into combat.
I would do that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
This is my least favorite and most favorite of all the things in here. The sticky
Yeah, I was
mouth.
going to say, you just got to where I was, because I was waiting to reveal the picture of Sticky Mouth. That is absolute nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
When a slime consumes a T-Rex.
Yeah.
No.
And it doesn't have to be a T-Rex. It can just get on your horse, eat your horse from the inside, and next time you walk up to your horse, it's going to eat you too.
I mean, it's classic 80s movie nightmare fuel.
Yep. That is. And they have a hedgehog. Should have given it more speed. Got to go fast.
Too much more speed and it can catch everybody.
Yeah.
Remember, after all, it is learning its new body.
Yeah. Yeah, we have they have the representatives of the gods, the envoys. Some interesting takes on, the classic angels, from tiny to terrifying. Oh my god.
The envoy, the scariest orangutan ever.
Yeah. The woolly unicorn, there to stomp the shit out of evil. Gotta appreciate unicorn. That.
I mean, what else would you call him? He's a woolly unicorn.
Yeah.
The 6-foot horn of a woolly unicorn is where its magic is consecrated.
Yeah.
And then we get the.
Nothing says primordial D&D like a woolly unicorn. I mean, unless it was a saber-toothed unicorn, and that's just wrong.
And then, of course, in the very back of the books, to help people out, there's a name generator.
Yeah.
And, of course, inspiration. I love how the writer of the book said 10,000 BC is what inspired this book for him.
Yeah.
The original, not the remake, I'm assuming.
He never said, but with his age, it could be the new one.
It could be.
Yeah, he says the 2008 film in the credits.
Okay, so he reads the new one.
Yeah. It also includes Mad Max, which I have to give it compliments for.
Yep, to get that apocalyptic feel. Includes Alpha.
Yeah.
Apocalypto.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Alpha.
Yeah. He has Quest to Fire on there, which you mentioned. Moana. Actually, Moana is an excellent thought for there.
Yeah.
The whole island coming to life is very much in this whole...
yeah.
Primal. Plus the gods are living gods. They're,
Yeah. I give them credit for, looking at the crudes.
Yep.
It's funny because I was thinking of the crudes when, for part of this,
Yeah, I mean, It's one thing I
Crazy
really
creatures.
enjoy is when people admit that D&D is also a bit silly.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
We just got done discussing the woolly unicorn, so you need that element in D&D. I mean, there's that point where you make a pun and everyone laughs for 5 minutes, and it's like, well, and back to killing things.
I like things that can also poke fun at itself,
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a danger pony? Or otherwise known as a murder pony. Now we just have a woolly murder pony.
Woolly. He's so fluffy!
It's so fluffy, I'm gonna die! No, it's gonna stomp you into the ground.
No, he's so fluffy, you're going to die.
Yes.
And of course, I do love that he credited some podcasts too, which is good.
Yes.
I didn't like Shazam! Fury of the Gods, but I loved the unicorns.
Taste the rainbow.
The fact that everything was scared of I'm like, of course, they're murder ponies. That was like the best part of the whole movie was the murder ponies.
They're murder ponies. Everyone's terrified of them. So, of course, I know the next question is, okay, when are we going to play a Planegea campaign? Which I still got to do.
We had a vote on this before we did the pirate.
I know,
campaign.
we were just about to do Planegea until the swing vote switched to Undead Pirates for the Monday game.
Yeah. Yeah.
The worst one ever on the cover, Undead T-Rexes. Of course, not as bad as the one in the, Tomb of Annihilation? It's an undead T-Rex in that adventure that's full of zombies that it's eaten.
That's...
Yes. So it eats people, and its negative energy corrupts the corpses because it can't digest them. So the corpses then become zombies that crawl out of it. Super ooky.
Lovely.
Super, super ooky.
Yeah, I don't even know how to respond to that one.
So I will totally give credit on the back cover of the book. That goblin, he's a baller little shit. I don't know about you, but I want to kill the T-Rex.
I do too.
Of course, watch.
I want to run too many different types of characters in this.
Well, that's the beauty with Planegea is depending on what your session 0 is, you could pick so many different stories to follow.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing here is that there's the more mundane, but like there's also like I keep going back to my Memento spell skin, and it's like that could be an interesting story in itself of like, okay, how did I die?
Yeah.
I need to solve this mystery for myself. And clearly that's just one player's story there, but there's a lot of interesting options from all these different perspectives of like, sometimes you need to steal things from other tribes. Maybe you need to do the intrigue aspect that I mentioned before. It's just, I love that they take the time to like say, yeah, it's a setting. You can do what you want with it.
Yeah, and the tribe you end up with are the ones that found you and sheltered you because you woke up sick and tired and weak, and they basically got you back on your feet. And that's why you're with the tribe that knows nothing about your abilities, that, you don't want to tell anyone about. But wait, you don't know better.
Yeah.
As the local shaman of the group says, dude, we don't do that here. You're welcome. Here's a cloak.
Yeah. We thought that was a weird birthmark because you were all deformed, but now we can tell you're a spell person, so maybe cool that. It's all cool.
And of course,
it's all cool. I don't remember any of my spells anyways because I forgot everything when I got melted.
The spell skin reminds me of the oh god, I forgot his character in Conan, the wizard. Where he's got his spells. Where he's got his spells all across his skin and stuff.
Mm-hmm. God, what is that setting? I think there's something in Saltmarsh where they have spells that you tattoo on your skin.
Yeah, that's when they first came out with the tattoos for 5th edition, which they give a whole lot more here. But yeah, in what is it, Tasha's? They give more tattoos that you could totally use in this one.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting combination of things.
Of course, now that we mentioned 10,000 BC, there could totally be a campaign where you're a clan who was attacked by giants, who stole some of your people, including your beloved, and took her up to the giant city where there's a pyramid. 10,000 BC.
Ooh. Huh. I mean, one of the things they mentioned was, I don't even remember where, it was Stargate.
Oh, yeah.
That's fucking hilarious. The Black Hounds are literally like, a Stargate-esque thing where they are keeping you down.
They're keeping you at that
level. And
you
are breaking into their spaceship.
They're like, we don't need these primates to figure this stuff out.
Yes. And if you are like trying to break out of, this whole situation, that could be really interesting too.
Mm-hmm. And another nice thing too is they totally give adventure bait. Like, hey, Dragon could show up and say, hey, squishies, why don't you go do this thing? It'd be total lulls. And it starts oh great, you just started a war between different groups, and the dragon did it just for fun.
Yeah.
He's totally going to reward you, but he did it for fun to push over the toys and see what happens.
Yes, very much so. I mean, and there's the whole aspect of the Land of Nod. If you haven't, I mean, we've touched on it, but it's like, you literally have the Fae like next door to you who could just decide to again knock over the pieces because they think it's funny, and it doesn't affect them in the same way if it gets cold outside and no one has food.
Yeah. Oh, did we break our toys?
Yep. We we thought it was really fucking hilarious to lead like 5 different clans into the same route to do hunting gathering where there's not enough food for them,
and then watch the ants fight.
Yeah. How are you gonna deal with that? You don't want your clan to die, but you also don't want to like kill the other clans for someone else's entertainment. Are you gonna break in and kick some ass there? That doesn't fix the problem.
The desperation of we need to parlay. We need to visit each clan at their fire so we can parlay, but you can be murdered once you get away from the fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh god, I could totally see a group doing a clandestine mission, waiting while the other tribe is feasting, sneaking through, and then setting up camp at the fire so when everyone wakes up, they wake up and just appeared. And then comes the waiting game of, I can't kill you in front of our fire because you didn't try to put it out in the night, so you're not total jerks, but I'm going to kill you as soon as you step away.
Yep. Our fire now.
And of course, they do mention that in the book, that there are douchey clans that their whole job is to go and, instead of counting coup style, go put your fire out.
Yeah. It is interesting to think how that works a little bit, because if you're nomadic and you have a giant fire, how do you transport that without wheels?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it goes back to the quest for fire, where you've got like a shell or some wood bark bundle that 3 people are carrying a bundle each to make sure one makes it to the end.
Yeah.
The Planegea Olympics.
Yeah. It's a particularly vulnerable time for someone to steal your fire.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you see lightning strike or a fire dragon start some stuff. And then you say, we must go get that fire.
Oh, sorry. Loud clap there. That would be fucking awesome if like 4 people or more we're just like meeting together like randomly. It's like, oh, we're just from different tribes and there's this lightning strike in the middle of them. It's like, now there's a clan fire in the middle of us. Are we a clan?
There's an origin.
The gods
story.
have left us.
Yeah. Oh, that could be a story.
And then you go back to that burnt tree, And you find out that that tree is now a god because all of those people put so much into it.
Yeah.
And on a rare occasion, a branch will fall from the dead tree, and when it hits the ground, cinders spark and roar to flame.
Yeah.
It's total adventure fuel. So I
Yeah.
totally gotta say thank you, Atlas Games, because Planegea is definitely one of those ones to see. They do have PDFs, by the way, of different adventure books, as well as a GM's screen. I've seen a PDF of the screen. I have not ordered it yet because I made myself promise to not buy more until we started a campaign. That was my justification of don't buy it until we're playing it. But definitely check out atlas-games.com/Planegea. That's Planegea. Because it's great, because it's, got this Gaia going, it's got the Planegea going, it's got the, it's just good writing.
Yeah. It has a lot of interesting things to the setting. Seems well worth your time.
Yep. So I definitely think that's probably a good place to wrap it up there, because we could probably go on for another hour easy just going back around stuff. Because I know what character classes I would want to play in this. And I would love to embrace the survivalist skill usage part of the game. Because that's just a fun mechanic.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun.
And again, murders halflings.
Love the murderous halflings. Ooh. Sorry, random thought. I was skimming through this and it's like, wow, if you put murderous halflings in the free citadel, of like that would be fun.
I mean, you just hear crawling in the walls.
Yes. Oh, that would be an interesting setting in itself.
I mean, on the plus side, the little pygmies only need to take down one giant and they can eat for a week.
Yep. Oh, that's an interesting concept there. If you're essentially slaves to the giants and you have to take out the halflings, which side do you take? I clearly don't take the giant side, but joining the cannibals and murderers also sounds unpleasant.
I'm thinking you're out on the plains hunting in waist-high grass, already on edge, and then all of a sudden, the bard in the group looks over and sees a little shrunken head hanging on a tree, and he just turns around and screams, "Halflings!" And then you just see the shapes moving in the grass towards you quickly. Run! We have a 5-foot step advantage on them.
Yeah.
And then one person goes down, and no one turns around for them.
Yep. Just keep running.
Alrighty, guys. I would like to say thank you for joining me on this adventure to Planegea. And again, we're gonna have to totally put a poll going or something. See if maybe the Thursday night Age of Myth group wraps up shortly. If they want to do D&D or some other night that works for everybody.
All right. Well, this has my vote right now. I have a lot of. Well, I'm not running it, but I have a lot of ideas.
So many games, so many ideas. And this would require a long session 0 to hammer out what everyone's wanting for an idea. I mean, I know what I would want. Like I said, I would just want a spring to winter campaign of Don't Die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm fine with that.
I mean, there's an old PS4 game I used to play called Journey to Ragnarok, where basically you're a clan in a village with a fire in the middle, and you got to protect this Yggdrasil tree instead of a fire. And you got to basically fend off everything that's coming to attack your village, and you start with a no-walled village, so you have to build it all up. And, doing a traveling version of that, oh man. Oh look, there's a Jotun coming. It's about a week away. Do you move? Why, yes, you move.
Yeah.
Or do you accidentally piss off the halflings to go the direction of the giant?
Yeah.
His big coat could keep your
Goddamn.
village alive for a month.
All right.
Alrighty, guys.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Seems like that's a good place to stop.
Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
And
Yeah.
see you guys later.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Playing Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, please check out D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Ragnarok Enroll a Scion Hero to Ragnarok Story. Also, check out our Patreon page for more content and behind-the-scenes things, as well as joining us for a one-shot game or two.